Prefer fresh coconut water. Like, in South America, I was drinking that daily.
Oh,
Daily.
can't compare, eh? Like, you see them break.
Not at all.
You see them break that coconut open, and you know that you're just drinking coconuts. What I don't like about, honestly, probably the thing I like the least about the coconut water that we have is the packaging. Just thinking that it's been sitting in that packaging for
10 years. 10
you think
and a
so?
half.
No.
Well, some, you don't know. We don't know. Like, more realistically, like 3 to 4. That's more realistic. But you don't know. Some could be in there for a long time.
Damn, I didn't even think about that. Almost like they manufactured it like years ago, and then they just...
'Cause I'll be honest, some coconut water I drink and I get sick.
Oh, yeah?
So that shows you...
Hopefully not this one.
This should be fine. But when I say sick, I mean coconut's supposed to like flush your kidneys, but if I have the wrong kind, it will actually cause my kidneys to work harder, which shows that however it's being preserved or processed, it's not its an original form.
How do you know that your kidneys are...
Because like your body will start to get symptoms. Like depending on how sensitive your system is, you can sense it. Like maybe you'll have like breathing issues or digestive, cramps or whatever. Everyone will have something different.
For you, is it like your skin gets irritated? Is that kind of...
I noticed specifically with some brands of coconut water, it will be like, I won't even be able to go to the washroom. Like, yeah, just like to take a piss. Because it's like, it's actually causing my kidneys to work harder. Whereas proper coconut water is just supposed to flush you out.
Interesting. Huh. That stuff's decent though. I like...
Oh yeah, this stuff's good.
Because I feel like, one of the main things I look for is like no added sugar, like 100% coconut water. I don't know how true that even is. It seems like, it tastes like it's pretty much coconut water, but...
Again, I think everything should be based on how it resonates for you. Because if it's not making you sick, then doesn't mean it's a horrible product. You know what I mean? Like if I get affected by something, it doesn't mean everyone else should stop using it, right?
Right. That makes sense. I guess the other side of that would be like if you're like I drink the tap water, and because I've been drinking tap water so long, it's like my body might have built this kind of like...
Yeah, and everyone's body can respond differently. But I know certain people, could be genetics, could be many factors. They take certain things and they'll develop like a sickness or like just some symptoms will develop,
Yeah, so for you, you're very in tune with like what you put in your body, right? Like food, water, pretty much anything. Is that just from like you feel like you react to a lot of things more than other people, or like the general?
Well,
in general,
I would say I think everyone's body reacts to things, but they may just not be as aware. You know what I'm saying? Like for me, my body can respond to something like almost immediately, whereas someone else may take them like a day or two before they're like, oh, something I ate the other day, I'm now feeling, it'll give you these symptoms. So I guess my body's just quicker to show me when something isn't good for me or when I need more of it.
Right.
But I think could be genetics, could be just awareness, could be different factors,
It's like a blessing and a curse, because it's like if you have a lot of the time when something bad happens or you react to something is when you have to learn you actually have to learn about what it is you're putting in your body, or try and find an alternate route that's healthier, but it kind of uncovers what maybe you didn't see before, that like if you didn't have any reaction to it, maybe you were ingesting something that was maybe contaminated, or...
And you wouldn't have questioned it, and you would have just kept ingesting it.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. That's what I look at it as, a blessing and a curse, because it forces you, like when you have a lot of allergies or just health complications, which I think majority of people in this day and age have. I think the hardest part is not knowing what to do. And because you're told that you're given a variety of different possibilities, but they always leave you guessing. It's like, oh, you could have this or you could have that, but I need to know, because if I don't know, then how am I going to fix it? And then usually the doctors don't even know, but they're giving you different prescriptions, hoping that it will fix the problem. But usually it just fixes or just is, it's like a Band-Aid. It just gives you the temporary solution, but the underlying problem is still there. So I think all these sicknesses that people are having, I think it's actually to their benefit, because it's showing that there's something there that needs to be addressed. But we're not trained to look at it like that.
Right.
you
So
know?
it's like people have the reaction, but then they kind of just go to the doctor and get like
and they're afraid. They're like, oh my gosh, like the body's not working correctly. Like, no, it's working the way it should, but you've been trained that it's malfunctioning. You see?
Right.
It's the symptoms are there to tell you that something's wrong. And don't cover it up and act as if it's not there. Like breakouts on your skin, or, you have a tumor showing up, or you have prostate issues, or, a lot of people, even females, they have like, or they're coming down with different reproductive health issues.
especially in the last couple of years.
Yeah. And exactly. You don't want to just ignore that or just cover it up or take it out, because when you take a disease out of the body with like, incision, or someone's cutting it out, basically the cells are programmed to manifest that disease even if they pull it out. So basically it's just going to come right back. So if you don't change the terrain of the system that led to the disease, then it's like it never left. You know what I mean?
Right. Do you think a lot of those diseases or things that people get a vast majority come from food and like drinking and food, like what they ingest as food and
Most
water?
certainly. I from the research I've done, diseases are mainly spiritual in nature, but they're also can be because of contaminated food, and also emotional. So if we're not addressing our thoughts, and if we're holding a lot of resentment and anger and fear and negative emotions, those will turn into diseases, and they are stored in different organs in the body.
That's very interesting, because I think a lot of people would kind of just throw that in the hokey box. But if you think about depression, for example, or stress, when you're stressed, your body is creating a cortisol, and cortisol is like a real substance that basically negatively affects your body, right? Is that?
Most certainly. And there's, as I was explaining to you a bit earlier, there's certain records that explain that when you don't have the ability to control certain emotions, they will affect certain organs like your liver, your gallbladder, your spleen, digestive system. Even the people who are obese, there's also an emotional component to that in some cases, not everyone. But there's something there that they have to address that isn't just food related, because you can change your eating habits. You may go vegan or whatever, but you may not be able to fully lose the weight because there's a deeper issue. You know what I'm saying?
And I guess metabolism plays a part, but it's not everything, right?
It's not everything. Not to say you don't want to eat as clean as possible, but there are some diseases that they're very they're very deep seated, meaning like 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 doctors will say it's like, oh, we have no idea where this came from, right? Well, because a lot of them they're spiritual, which means there's like spirits that literally can move from different parts of the body and affect different organs based on the our emotional problems we're dealing with, or even what ancient records will say is like anytime someone sins, they're inviting like spirits or demons into their body. So if you do this type of sin, there will be a spirit that comes and affects your liver. Or if you do this type of sin, it will affect like your feet or your brain or different parts of your body. So a lot of ancient records are basically telling us how to stay away from sin because it's keeping us free from sickness. And which is why they don't really want people to have a strong connection to God, because when you're whole, you're not likely to need a doctor or a physician.
Right.
Because you are the doctor, because you're healing yourself, because you have the knowledge of what not to do,
Right. So basically, if you need to go to the doctor, if you can't self-diagnose, then it's just more money for the big companies that basically run the world and run all the
Exactly.
industries and are doing the bigger sins, like the companies that are like taking oil out of the ground or clear cutting forests and for their products and those kinds of things. Like that's a level of sin, right? Like to be doing something that is not good for the environment. It's not like a regenerative process, but they're just like telling them, oh yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. You can clear cut a forest and plant the trees again and nothing will happen. The soil will stay exactly the same.
Well, here's the catch too, because I feel we all have different destinies. And it's not to say like, what's bad for one is not bad for the other. But I do think there's a level of intuitively I can do something, like for me it's very bad, but for you it just may not be that bad.
Right.
So God could also look at basically like he's judging like our character, because if we know something's not right and we're doing it, that's what's considered sin. But like some people are ignorant, or like they're just immature in the sense of their knowledge on certain things, so they may not be punished if they, or to the same degree if they do that same thing, right? But if I know I shouldn't be doing something and all of my friends say, hey, let's do it, but me personally, I know I shouldn't be doing it and I do it, I'm going to be punished for that.
So was there something at one point in your life that led you down this path of like learning all that and like feeling like you did something that you were like sinning? And
well, definitely. Like I started smoking when I was 12, like consecutively.
weed?
Well, weed, everything, cigarettes.
Really? You smoke cigarettes?
Like here and there, like
Okay.
smoke bongs, poppers, whatever. But
I actually didn't know that. I thought you were like a green, only guy.
It's not because I wanted to, though. It's because of the people in your environment. It's like what's cool is what they're doing, so you just take part in it because you're around them. But that wasn't good for me, even though I was trying to convince myself that I could manage it. And, this was fine. Everyone else was doing it. It's not that bad. But then as I got older, because I was like a chronic, like everyday smoker, like 4, 5, 6, 7 times a day, I couldn't leave it. I couldn't really be at peace without it, type of thing. So it is basically like, a stronghold, meaning like I was basically unable to just be myself without this substance. And, now I see people and in my mind, I'm like, okay, I don't have that addiction anymore because I was able to break it. But if I see someone who smokes, I don't look down on them. because I have more wisdom now. You know, it's like not everyone is struggling with the same things, and also I do understand there are medicinal benefits to cannabis and things like that. So, I'm not gonna say like I advocate for people to smoke, but I know for me it wasn't something that could have, like, basically it got me to a certain point, and then I had the choice of like leaving it behind and moving forward or being stuck. You know, and that was a hard decision, because also the people you surround yourself with have to change as well.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what addiction or group you're in, if you change the habits, then your friend group is going to change as well.
Especially with weed, like you generally kick it with the homie to smoke a joint and catch up, and it's based around
Exactly.
smoking weed when you hang out with.
And then you feel like an outsider if you're not taking part. You know.
And so you did quit smoking?
Well, I quit in high school twice, and then I think it was the third time that I was finally able to kick it for good. But I realized the only reason I was able to kick it for good was because there was a spiritual component that I was missing. Because before I tried to quit out of complete willpower, just like, okay, I'm done. I need to get my life together. I'm in like grade 10 and whatever. And already at that age of 16, I'm like, man, I can't be doing this. But, it's like you're really not that strong. Some of us are not that strong at that age. So 5 months goes by. It's like, oh, okay, I'll take a hit, whatever. But afterwards, like wasn't until like 2016 where, and by that time I was already graduated high school 2012. So I think it was 4 years after. And I was starting to like seek God for the first, I wouldn't say the first time, like I, grew up in church and all these things, but there wasn't any like deeper relationship because I wasn't seeking God for myself. It was just like a tradition. Like, okay, this is what we do. We go to church, sit down, we say, God, come into my heart, da da da. But there's really no relationship. And that's the one thing I think people are missing also in this world, because we're taught that like God is like a mythical creature, and that like he doesn't like we're not shown how closely related to us that he is, in the sense of, Christ, from my belief, like he was a man, so he had the same emotions we go through, the same kind of thoughts and temptations, things like that. So when you understand it from that perspective, you realize that even though he chose to live his life a certain way, like certain things can be done, even if it's not easy. And so when you're addicted to certain substances and you don't really have God in your life, you're almost, you're in a position where you can be overwhelmed by, you have the choice of the addiction and the choice of, moving forward with your life. But unless you have the right tools to help you to move forward, and part of that is the knowledge, then it can be very difficult,
Mm-hmm. I feel like another thing that's really hurt like God in our society today is, it seems like there's been a lot of people who used like God as, or them being religious as almost like a marketing tool, and they weren't actually working with God.
Oh,
Like people that own, like, because so much of our
it's a huge marketing tool.
Mm-hmm. And our civilization is like built up like it's the year 2023. Like that's a biblical time frame, right? Like obviously the like we're like, it's so integrated. Religion is so integrated into our society that we base the year that we live in off that, right? But it just seems like so many people have kind of abused God to do bad. Like, oh yeah, I believe in God, and then they go and do something
and you
bad.
see, this is something I'm still learning because I've been deceived by a handful of people. And when I say deceived, meaning it's basically just misled, or um, it's almost like a form of manipulation, because they will try to use their quote unquote love for God to get things out of you. It's like, oh, God said, even like if you go on WhatsApp, there's like people who will say like, God says you need to donate, I don't know, $50 to this ministry, or, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Or God says, if you give, give this donation of 200, you'll be healed from all your diseases. And there are real miracles that did happen in the Bible. However, in the Bible, it also says to be not deceived. There's so many scriptures that talks about not being deceived by people and being manipulated to give them things, or because they have an agenda. But it's our job to actually be able to recognize someone who's actually sent by God versus someone who's just using God as a cloak,
Yes,
it's like
to
the
push
Doctor
capitalism.
Evil, you know what I mean? It's like he's gonna save the world, but really, that's not his real agenda.
Right. It's really just to make money off of you, and
It could be whatever their agenda is.
Right.
It could be whatever, man. And the more desperate people become, I notice they're more ruthless. So they're more likely to, and sometimes they're not even aware of the fact that they're being used by the devil to do these things either. Because it's really like, if they knew the I guess the karmic or spiritual punishment that they have for them for manipulating people and for deceiving people, it's very bad.
Right. I sure hope that there is, because it seems like sometimes in life.
Oh, bro, there is. Trust me.
Yeah.
There is. But again, there's a lot of people like to downplay how and again, like there's different, because I know what you mean. Like I have friends also who speak on this. Like they hope that people are going to be judged for their actions. And I think right now it doesn't seem like people are being judged for their actions, because evil is like dominating. So it's like, why is everything so unfair,
Right.
But I think there's a time that this is going to be allowed to continue for, and then afterwards things will change. Like it does this, every X amount of years. Like the Bible says how there's nothing new under the sun. So this isn't the first kingdom that has gotten to this height, and eventually, if it continues in the way it's going to like crumble. We don't want it to crumble, obviously, because we like this place, and it's our home, whether it be Canada, America, wherever we live. But it's really based on the actions people decide to take, because it's basically, we are the ones who kind of decide what direction this place goes. And they would have us think that we don't have the ability to dictate, what's going to happen to humanity and society. And to some degree we may not, but we can dictate what happens to our own selves, what life we want to live, if we want to be, in the the lies and the confusion, or if we want to be in peace, or, we can choose what foods we want to eat. We can choose what people we want to hang around. So we can choose a lot.
And what I would say most people consider peace in 2023 is getting home from work, sitting in front of the TV, watching Netflix with like a snack and like a drink and your phone, and you're just like in this comfortable little environment. And that's kind of like the new age comfort when
But it's not peace
it's
because
not real
they're
comfort.
running. They're running from themselves. Because when you're focusing on the television, and actually I've looked into information that explain how the television is really a portal. And I mean, this might be deeper information, but
Hey, if anyone wants to judge these conversations by a sentence, like by all means go for it. But if they want to learn more about it, like tune in, listen, and don't, there's a lot of things that you've learned that I haven't learned. So I'm not just going to hear one sentence and think, oh, it's delusional. It's like, well, no, I don't know what you're talking about yet. Like, so why would I judge it based on, like, especially in a world like this, like we have no idea what this world is.
Possibilities.
Like, possibilities. Like, we know nothing. We don't even know a percent of the knowledge you can know in this world. So I definitely never want to assume that I know anything, even if I feel like I do know it, to go about it in a way of like, I know that and you're wrong. It's like, just doesn't.
Keep an open mind.
Yeah.
Like in the movie Wonder Woman 1984, I don't know if you're familiar with that one.
Like the year 1984?
No, it's came out a couple of years ago. It's from Marvel, but they broke down how they use the television to manipulate the minds of people. It's like one of the last scenes of the movie, and this evil character who was trying to dominate the world used the television to instill this. It's basically like a mind control to make anyone who was watching the TV basically do whatever he wanted them to do. Or it was actually, you know what it was? It was even higher manipulation, because anything that the person who was watching the TV said, it ended up coming to pass. So I think, and I can't fully remember it, but in one of the scenes, like this person was like to his wife, "Oh, I hate you, da da da," and because they were manipulated by what was seen on the TV, they basically ruined their relationship, and that's just one example, right? There was other scenarios, but basically saying Wonder Woman had to come in and resolve that, so she took power back, because she was like the savior. And she kind of canceled that power the evil person had to manipulate people. But I was saying the portals about the TV, because, we see a lot of these science fiction movies, but majority of them are really based on biblical scenarios or stories of events that took place where there's, if you look, and again, you got to do deeper research, but there are portals throughout the world. However, through technology, they have been able to almost redirect where these portals are being opened. So, let's just say in theory, you would have to go to like the middle of the desert to get to that portal. Now you can get to your portal in your house. You can turn on the television. You can turn on your phone. So they are making it a lot easier to access.
And when you say portal, you don't mean like you walk through it and physically you're in another place. It's more like portal is in like...
Well,
or
not yet, but these portals, things can also come through, and things you may not be able to see.
Like influences even?
Spirits, influences. Because a portal isn't just what's going in, it's what's coming out. Right?
As in like the information coming from the TV is like like something coming through the portal?
Exactly. But beyond information, there is the content of what you're watching will affect what is coming through that portal. Right? Do you get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're watching a scary movie, you're basically inviting evil into your life through that portal. If you're watching, like, I don't know, a romance or something, you may be inviting that into your life. If you're watching just positive things like nature, you know, it's you can see the difference there. But right now, if you turn on the TV, 99% of it is all negative. So everything that people are pretty much inviting into their life, and it's unconsciously, because most people, they don't know they're in agreement with it, but you are, because the television is almost like an altar. So when you sit down in front of your television, it's almost like you're kneeling down and like you're worshiping it as a god. Like, think about how much time people spend in front of their television. Like, if you go to other countries, they may not even spend that much time at church. Like, it's a religion.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So any time you're devoting that much time to something, and who knows, maybe if you're even just doing it 1 hour, 2 hours a day, the main thing is what are you consuming?
Right. Like reality TV shows, for example, they've made them so powerful that you can't help but watch it with, like, you emotionally react to it constantly. Like,
oh my gosh, like, oh, they just did this. Oh,
yeah.
Man, it feels like you're right there.
And most of the time it's because, for me, when I watch it, it's because people are so stupid on the shows. They're doing such stupid things that you can't help but react and be like, what the fuck is wrong with this person? Like, and it like makes you angry and upset, and you're just watching a TV show. That has nothing to do with your life. It's all edited to make you react like that.
You know,
Scripted.
all of it, you know, but they understand how the human mind works. So it's really just for numbers. It's a numbers game. The longer they can get you in front of the TV, the more money they make. It really doesn't matter what content they're putting. But it's a bonus, because if they can put negative content, it actually does two things. It makes you sick, because you're now more fearful, more worried. Like, think about, you know, the whole pandemic we just experienced. Was any of it positive, what you heard on the news? No. All you heard was, oh, 30,000 new cases here. Oh, stay 6 feet. Oh, there's a new virus. It's spreading. It's traveling. Da da da. So anytime you're constantly consuming that information, you're now taking on the spirit of whoever is projecting that information. And they're using these portals, which is in your house or on your phone, to send that information directly to you. So that's why when you're not connected to any of these things, you are more free to be at peace with your life, because it's not that these things, let's say, may not exist. I'm not here to debate that, but you have a choice whether it exists based on your belief in it. You know, like, they don't tell you that the moment you believe that you're going to get sick, you've already, like, weakened your immune system. Like, fear, just by having fear, you're weakening your immune system like 50, 60, 70%, maybe even more. So the moment the thought of, oh my gosh, I'm going to get, and they say that word, you've already put your defenses down.
So in a sense, fear,
that's the weapon.
so if you're not scared, you have a shield, but then as soon as there's fear in your body, your shield weakens.
It says in the Bible that God does not give us a spirit of fear. So anytime I now see someone or something is trying to cause me to be fearful, I realize that that's not the position I need to have. And our natural mind will try and justify it. Like, oh, everyone in my environment's sick, or everyone has, you know, they just got tested and they got this. But remember, we're not just a physical being. So we have to, you know, look deeper, like intuitively, to recognize, you know, is this fear really, where is this coming from? And you have to, it's like a practice. Like, you're not just going to learn how to not be afraid overnight. You know, there was times where I felt like I didn't want to leave the house because I was afraid. But I had the choice to allow that to consume me. And I'm not even talking about during COVID, right? This was even before that for other reasons, you know, like in the area I live in, there was like a lot of shootings a few years ago and things like that. So in my mind, I was like, man, like this is always happening. Like, so why am I going to leave my house? Because, you know, I'm more likely to get caught up in this. But you have to train yourself to not be afraid because of what you're seeing on the television or what they're showing you, you know.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I feel like it when you, like for me, I think one of the things that helped me combat fear in general is riding my bike and doing like scary tricks and constantly like having to convince myself of just to do something even if I'm scared of it. And I feel like it maybe a lot of people don't have something that makes them feel like, oh, you know what, like I have the power. I have the power
To
to,
overcome certain things. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. People feel like if you study even a bit of Chinese medicine, like I spent a bunch of time looking into their ancient records and stuff, and they say like fear is manifests as a weak kidney. So it kind of ties hand in hand. If you have a lot of fear, your kidneys are going to be weak, but your kidneys are where your life essence is, and it's almost impossible to be a strong individual if you have a lot of fear in your life.
Is that also scientific? That like if
It trust me, it's that's why you have two kidneys, like the only organ that you have two of, because they're so important. They're your filters for your body. They regulate water balance and all these things. Um, and so, but even if you look right now, one of the main things people are dying from is, or maybe not that they're dying from it, but they're in the hospital trying to recover from is either diabetes, or a lot of people are on dialysis. And that's basically due to a kidney that is not functioning properly. So the dialysis is there to help them to get their organs functioning again. However, these emotional imbalances have to be addressed, because if you're just, you know, taking a bunch of medication or whatever, that's one aspect. But if there's still a bunch of fear in your life, if you're still watching all these negative news flicks and content, you're not healing anything,
right.
you know?
Yeah, it's like it's almost like a band-aid solution. Like you got to get to the root cause.
You have to.
And you can't just look at the surface level, and maybe something that you need a prescription to fix is a surface level fix for a deeper issue of why you actually got that whatever it was that you got. Maybe.
Seriously. And remember years ago when my feet were like really swollen? Do you remember that?
I think I kind
This was
of.
like almost at
Okay.
least 10 years ago.
Uh-huh.
I couldn't ride. I couldn't barely walk. Do you remember at all?
I thought it was more like skin
But it was
irritation.
combination. Like it was,
Okay.
it started from like swelling feet, but that was partially kidney imbalances as well.
Really?
And it took me a while, like years, to figure that out. But what also causes kidney imbalance is too much salt in the diet. And if you look at a lot of packaged foods, they have like thousands of milligrams of salt, and they're purposely poisoning you, because in Indian medicine now, they say you shouldn't really have more than a pinch of salt per day. So thousands of milligrams is way beyond the limit. And then, you know, if you have several meals a day, you're also more at risk of developing these problems down the road. But you know, it almost seems as if there's so many ways to develop these diseases, and you know, that's why I don't, again, like partially from my experiences and when I see other people going through things, like I understand why they're there, but also it's like I have more compassion, because I know it's not easy to get out of those situations, because first they have to accept that they've been lied to in a lot of areas. and they're a lot of the times the people who maybe claiming to want to help them, they really don't know what's best for them.
Right. And you also have to go against all, like, a lot of people in your own life, your own family, your own friends, your own companions sometimes, to be honest with the truth.
Mm-hmm.
You might lose some of those friends or relationships, unfortunately, which is wild to think that someone's beliefs on something run that deep to where they're willing to ruin friendships and stuff, instead of just, like, keep an open mind. If someone wants to tell their opinion, cool, let's talk about it. Like, it's not like we have to argue if it's right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just, like, let's be open to hearing about it and learning about it, and then you can decide what you think is right. But you don't have to, like, to be so sure of yourself that you're correct, that you're going to argue and not be friends with someone because they're going against your opinion. I mean,
Well,
that's a great sign of someone who's
that, to
battling
me,
a lot of sins,
yeah,
right?
that's, that there's probably pride in there somewhere. And I think we all have varying levels of pride, which I guess is natural, but when we start to look down on other people, then it can become unhealthy,
Right.
And think we're better than other people.
Right. And that's where earlier you were saying, you said something about you understand where they're coming from, or, like, you like to be like.
Well, now I do, because I partially had to go through a lot of these challenges myself. So, like, I'll give you an example. When I would, like, 2015, I decided to go, like, vegan. During, like, I think it was about 2 years or maybe 3 of not eating meat. Like, my perception towards meat eaters was very negative, like, very, very negative. And it was almost like it was just wasn't healthy.
Like,
and
in your head, almost like
better.
your
I was
ego
better,
was
yes.
telling you, like, you'd look at it and be like, they don't even know.
Yeah.
Like, I have information that they don't know.
They have no idea what's going on, and they're, you guys are eating the worst food, and you just, this is not what good people eat, And we can develop these beliefs based on whatever is out on the internet, just something we pick up because it sounds good, and we feel like, oh yeah, this is healing, this can heal the world, this can take care of our problems. But when you dig deeper, it's really all a lie, because I don't have anything against vegans, but it wasn't until I started eating protein again, after all that time. Obviously I had to address a lot of other issues, emotional stuff, trauma, all these things, but until I started eating properly again, for my constitution, physiology, all that stuff, that's when my body started to heal. Like, from the first like fish dinner I had, man, like, I felt so grounded and relaxed after, like, 3 years of not eating any protein. And from that point, I'm like, whoa, like, and then after everyone was asking me, they're like, oh, you eat meat again? Because at that point, everyone in my family and my aunts and uncles, they knew I wasn't eating it. So they're almost, like, shocked when they see me eating again. Like, even now, they're still like, oh, you eat meat again? And I'm like, yeah, man, of course, but.
So what got you back into it? Was it just the one meal where you felt?
It was my dad seen me one day, and I was just, like, very malnourished and weak and stuff. I was in the mindset I was just going to keep going. Like, my problem may have been, it could have been resolved from doing something else, but he said I needed to start eating
supplementing.
Properly.
And all
he
that
said
stuff.
I needed to just eat properly, like eat fish, because he knew I was on the vegan. I was doing a lot of fasting too, like dry fasting. I wouldn't eat for, like, days. So I was just doing, like, very extreme diets and stuff. But you can throw the rhythm of your system off when you go into extreme diets, which I didn't realize. So if you ever do them, you want to have, like, a time limit and not think like you're Superman and just try and outdo yourself type of thing.
So did this have something to do with the foot swelling?
No. I started the vegan stuff after that.
Okay.
It was almost like I I was learning like what I needed to do, what I needed to change. But prior to that, the foot swelling, that was probably due to, I was still drinking a lot, smoking a lot. So my lifestyle wasn't very healthy. I was eating out like every day, probably. Not really focusing on nutrition. And then also genetically, certain foods, again, they'll affect people of African descent more than they'll affect Caucasians or vice versa. So we all have certain foods that we should be eating versus foods that will probably cause more damage to our system.
Right.
So there isn't a one size fits all. So what's good for you may not be good for my body type.
That makes sense. So, so the vegan thing was a response to, I'm gonna try this and hope that it fixes my
all these health issues. You know what I mean? And in the process, you develop a bit of the pride because you think you found the newest thing that's going to solve your problem. But I think it just made the problem worse, to be honest. I see, not a lot, but I see some vegans today that are highly malnourished. And it also affects your mental clarity, your state of like how grounded you are. So, a lot of root vegetables but also like proteins and meats and stuff, they can ground you. But if you're not eating a lot of those foods, then they'll actually make you spaced out, like too many vegetables, too many like leafy greens and stuff. So you have to like know how to balance between the two, so that way you can, be comfortable within your own skin, but also you obviously don't want to overdo the protein because it'll be hard on your kidneys. It can be sometimes hard to digest, and you know what I mean? You want to have a balance.
And overdo other things like, is it kale? That kale has certain things in it that are really good for you, but you can't just eat a fuckload of kale or else it'll it'll do something bad.
It'll mess you up. And even a lot of the beans, like a lot of the vegan stuff, part of it is we don't prepare these foods properly. So we're not soaking beans for several days to a week. We're not
as in to get like the Roundup and
the
pesticides
Roundup,
off
but
of
also the lectins and all these things that disrupt your gut biome. The lectins will cause a lot of damage and cause inflammation. And a lot of the nuts and seeds, if not all of them, have it in it. So if your body is sensitive, you can be eating a lot of those foods, and it will actually cause more inflammation.
Right.
So not every time you're eating vegan food, you may be. It depends on your situation, right? But I just think it's good to have an open mind.
What's kind of coming to my head is that whether it's meat, whether it's fruit, whether it's vegetables, it all comes down to how it was grown and how organic it was grown. And if that meat was, if they fed that animal with tons of antibiotics and all this gnarly stuff to plump it up to make that piece of meat extra big and full of fat, whatever, animal's health wasn't at all a factor. It was just about how do we get the most yield out of this animal. And same with the plant. How do we get the most yield out of it? Let's put whatever pesticide on it we have to kill the weeds and make sure that this thing grows to as big as it can get. Like that's kind of how so much is done. But obviously there's different ways to do it. And that's why it would make so much sense if we had our own little garden and our own little farm of cows and animals, because then we could feed them exactly we could feed them ourselves. We would know exactly what they're consuming and they're eating off of our field. We know that, it would be more of a safe process just because the bigger companies that do it, it seems like to do it in a large scale is kind of where they start compromising.
Like ethics, morals, things like that. fortunately, actually, around the same time I started doing the vegan thing, I started going to farmers markets. So before 2015, I never really don't remember even stepping foot in one. But I realized a direct cause of a lot of the inflammation and like skin outbreaks, all these things I was dealing with, was because of the food. So now I actually work at the farmers market. So I've been able to really not only learn a lot about what to eat versus what not to eat, but I'm grateful to have direct access to farmers who are growing like the healthiest food in the city, or sorry, outside of the city, and they're bringing it in.
Did you ever figure out what specifically it was? Like, do you have a hunch of
Well,
what?
the thing is, I do have a hunch, and in most of our cases, I don't. It's it's rarely ever one thing, unfortunately.
Mm.
So that's that's why the doctors can say, "Hey, we don't know what it is," because they're right. There's a lot of going on, man, in the system. The body's complex.
Right, more than what they know. Like,
There's a lot. So you kind of have to break down, do your own research, do your own homework, like examine your own past history, what led to your situation, examine your even the traumas, because they say a lot of trauma from childhood could, be coming up as an adult. They say a lot of trauma from your parents, your grandparents, those could also be affecting you. And you may have certain weaknesses because of whatever you experienced or they experienced. But it's rarely, I'm not going to say rarely. I think in this generation, we often, more often than not, have a variety of things going on in the immune system or spiritually. And really, again, the part of that could be due to how much access to negativity that we don't even realize we're consuming.
Mm-hmm.
I told you a bit earlier how I was reading the book. It's called the Pseudepigrapha for anyone who's interested. But the Testament of the 12 Patriarchs is the section that I was going through. And in this section, it was talking about, again, how there's the certain spirits that are housed in the organ system, right? But also and I'm trying to remember the point exactly. Like it's a very deep set of information because it really brings to light things that were not really shown in this generation. Do you mind if you remind me the point you were just talking about, and I'm gonna see if
Like growing, like as in like you can, like the compromising of quality on the bigger scales, or
for farm practices, no.
yeah, we were talking about that, yeah.
I think it was a bit after that.
What were we talking about?
It's all good. I'm gonna go along with it anyways. So in the Pseudepigrapha, basically, in the Testament of 12 Patriarchs, this is the section of the book that explains the biblical characters that were given information. They were giving information to their sons on how to live a prosperous life and how to avoid certain issues within themselves. Now remember, or with other people. So, as I was reading this yesterday, jealousy came up in the book, and how it constantly is reminding us to not be jealous of other people. And there's actually, it says in the book that you can invite certain demons into your life just by being jealous of other people. And we may not think of that as being a very problematic thing, but if you really understand the limitations you are now facing just by having that emotional, state, it's something you want to watch out for. Because a lot of health issues can come, a lot of problems in business, a lot of problems in relationships. It's just not good.
Yeah, it's so true. And
You
it's
know?
also, I always, a lot of the time with jealousy, I think about my dog, because you can see in dogs how quickly they get jealous of another dog, like if you pet them or something like that. And like a dog's instinct is to be jealous, but it's like they don't
Conscious.
they're not conscious. They can't like think about it like, is this benefiting me? And like it just shows that it's almost like a natural response, but there's no thought put into it. It's like the least kind of thought out natural kind of instinct. And it's, yeah, like it just show, if you're smart enough, you realize that it's not a powerful trait.
Well, the thing is, a lot of people who are taken over by it, they firstly, I think a lot of people would be in denial, because that's not a very positive trait to show that like you want what someone else has, or like envious. That's like another term, right? But it was saying how not only that, if you avoid that, dealing with jealousy, but it was also talking about even having like self-discipline. Like if you can control your urges or your sexual desires as a man, then certain bad things won't attack you. So I find in our generation, a lot of negative things happen to us because we lack self-control. And, the internet makes it very easy. Again, the portals with all this sexual content, we're inviting all these naked women into our lives, or, we have Tinder, we have all these dating platforms. We can basically see anyone at any given moment for almost nothing. Like it really doesn't cost us much in some cases, and really it can happen so quick and without having anyone notice, that we think that there's no lingering consequences. But according to these ancient records, it invites a lot of problems into your life, health, financially, and otherwise.
Even like a really negative perspective. Like I've been on dating apps before, and then I've also gotten to a point where I said, "Fuck this! Like I'm done with these." Me as well,
bro. It's like this is too much for me, man.
Yeah, but like you notice, like before I deleted it, you notice kind of
It's like a vibration, though. It's like that's what is coming off of these platforms.
And then you're that same vibration. Like you look at girls and you might just start thinking about how attractive they are if you would sleep with them.
It's like very vain. Like you're looking at them for the wrong reasons,
Right. Where if you're not on those dating apps, you might just look at them and be like, hey, how's it going? Let's be friends. Exactly. And you're just thinking about just making friends. You're not like, oh, is she, like, how hot is she? Would I have sex with her? It's like your brain, you program your brain to automatically think that if you're on those dating apps and watching porn all the time. Like there's no question about that, right? It's a very heavy influence. And for especially if you're younger, like
it's way worse for the younger generation now because they're growing up with it.
And they have less practice controlling things and with self-control and stuff like that. So whew. Yeah,
they're in a pickle, if you will, like seriously though, like, I have a younger brother and I see other kids who are like addicted to their phones. There's obviously not much positive content coming out on the phone, or if there is, they're not looking at all the positive stuff. I mean, I know at that age I wasn't, you know what I'm saying? Like 20, 19, 18, 15, whatever age you are. Majority of stuff that is being pushed out there is whatever is going to draw you in, and 9 times out of 10 it's not positive content.
Because the reaction, if you can react to it, that's how they know that their content did its job, and they've mastered it at this point to where everything's a trigger. Everything on there is just it. They've mastered it.
Yeah. So, you know, I would say people have to educate themselves and, you know, trust, or not even just trust, but learn to recognize what their intuition's telling them. Because as I said from before, like I was in grade 10 when I first was like, okay, I need to stop smoking, right? Had I just gone along with, you know, people pleasing and all these things to make myself feel better for having friends, who knows where I'd be today. But, you know, you have to separate yourself from certain people sometimes, and also certain environments, certain behaviors if you want to grow. And it obviously it's not easy in this day and age because we have a deficit for like community. So people are deeply in need of connecting with people. So social media almost seems like the easiest way, but it ends up that the people you are connecting with, or it's almost like a Band-Aid again, you know? It's like you're on the social media because you can't connect with people. So it makes you feel better, but it causes you to fall into negative habits.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it like enables you to not actually hang out with someone in person. It's like, oh, like I wonder what Quab's up to. Oh, well, I saw his Instagram photo, so I don't really even have to hang out with him or see him or hit him up.
He's good.
Right?
You know, he's chilling.
I feel like that's kind of what it does. And then slowly over time, we're just like, we feel less and less urge to like, or the
Get
need.
to know people.
Yeah. And like see them in
know?
person. Cause it's like, oh, well, we can just look at their Instagram and we know what they're doing. But it's obviously not,
It's
not real friendship.
It's not real, bro. And I noticed there's not that deep connection. And like I noticed that with some of my family members, that the only way for us to connect is social media or on the phone, which is cool. But as I got older, I'm like, I don't feel like this is meeting my needs anymore. Like I need to see you. I need to engage with you, interact. Like I can't just talk to you on the phone and be content.
Right.
You know? And again, when you're younger, it's like you just take whatever, but we are human, so we it's required that we have human interaction and like healthy interaction. And
yeah, for sure. And it's harder and harder to do in this world, but that's what's cool. Like just to think that you are like your life has led you down a road where you have just kind of so happened to go down this road where you're on the path to figure out a better life. You want to be healthy. You want to be truly healthy, truly happy, and you're on the mission to figure out what that really takes. And through that, it's kind of raised your awareness to like what all that other bullshit is that takes people farther from that place. And it's like, I mean, it's just a mess. Like it's like you're walking through a house, like a hoarder's house, and all those distractions are just the garbage and the stuff all over the house, and you can't even walk through that fucking hallway because there's just so much stuff to pile through. But
to be honest, I do think it's a divine intervention that I even went from just like, you know, eating like the worst. And when I say the worst food, it's basically food that I guess the average person eats. But I say it's the worst because there's no love put into it. It's like just exploiting communities and people for money. And it's being sold by people who are being overworked, underpaid. There's really no care for the people putting this food together. So,
Right.
um, but going from a position where I was kind of ignorant to now being able to provide healthy food to people, from the farm I told you we're working on, and also spreading like positive information and giving people knowledge. Like it it is like I tell people all the time, like it wasn't even a decision I wanted to make almost. I feel like it was like almost like destiny, because it's not easy to just, and I'm almost gonna say like kick your friends to the curb, because essentially that's at one point what I had to do. Because when I realized, and this was before I even got sick or any of that, I already knew intuitively. I'm like, these people, I've known them my whole life. They've been my friends. They could come over whenever I needed them, or I could go to their house whenever they want to hang out. But at this point, they're no longer serving me. So to find the willpower to actually still like, I'm going to say you still love them because you don't hate them, but you just know that you love yourself even more. So I think that's divine, because not a lot of people love themselves enough to put themselves first.
And then
You know what I'm saying?
they spend all their time around other people. They can't spend time alone because they're uncomfortable with it. Why is that? Like, what is that?
It's again, it's like it's comfortable, you know. It's comfortable, and it's basically like we need people. So it's not that hanging around people and having friends and being in a community is bad, but it's just that we've compromised like a healthy community, because maybe we've never known what that looks like for a unhealthy one.
Right. Yeah. Like making sure that your friends are there to lift you up and push you forward in life and not digress you. Like make
Mm.
sure that your friends are not jealous of you. Make sure that
Mm.
they want that they're looking out for your best interest. They're happy for you. And that's why they're going to like that's what I feel like that's the ultimate place to be is like yeah, like being happy for someone and grateful for them and like and not being jealous. That's how you get to their level, right? If you're jealous of someone who's successful and you're just thinking about like, oh, they must have done this to get to that level, or oh, they must have. You're just thinking of all the like loopholes or the snaky methods they could have used instead of like, oh, you know what, like they got there
You earned
because
it,
they earned it, and
Exactly.
I like that's good for them. Like I'm happy for them. That's such an important thing. I feel like for your own success, like when you can give the like when you can give credit to other people for their success and
Mm.
not make it about yourself, you know?
And you bring up a good point, because when I was going through a lot of, especially during the vegan thing, where, again, anyone who's malnourished, and we can talk more about this later, you will not be able to have like pure or healthy or righteous thoughts. So making sure that you're taking good care of yourself, getting the right nutrition
Mm-hmm.
is important. But in terms of like the jealousy, you're right. Like people will not, they can't really go forward in life, and they're really preventing their own blessings when they have these types of belief systems. Um, and it's, I think it's such a subtle persona that is often undetected. Um, I'll give you an example. So recently, someone came to me where I work, and they actually said that I'm taking all of their sales, literally. And And I literally just said, so you don't want me to be here, right? And, you know, so we quickly had like a dialogue, whatever. But it's been on my mind for the last like couple of days, just because before this person, I'm not gonna say I couldn't see signs but I'm not looking for signs. Like I'm not looking to see that someone is looking at me with an evil eye.
Right.
But I'm not ignorant either, meaning I like when she said, "Hey, you're like, you know, you're taking all my sales from me, like all my customers," because we technically, to some degree, we sell similar products. So I guess she feels, you know, that I'm infringing on her stuff. But then there's also other people who sell the exact same product in the market too. But why are you coming to me? So I think a lot of people have this inability to see other people do well, and it makes them very fearful, and they don't know how to be happy for other people.
Famine mentality.
It's
That's
crabs in the bucket, whatever it is. Because this lady I look up to, even to this, like I can still say that, like to this point, I never, even though someone else had come to me and say, hey, she don't like this person. To me, she never did anything personally for me to feel like I shouldn't like you. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to, you know, if someone says they feel a certain way about someone, I judge people on their character. So if you haven't affected me, whatever that's between you two, let it be. I'm not going to dwell on that. But
and she's in the health space.
Yes,
like she's in a healthy space.
Exactly. But you know, and again, these aren't things that really surprise me, because for me, I've always grown up seeing people not really like me. So it's not really surprising that people don't want to see me do well. Like it's almost like subconscious now. It's like, okay, I'm going to make sure I succeed, because I already know most people just don't want me to do well, you know? And I don't even take it personally. It's almost like a compliment, because, and I'm not going to say a compliment like I'm riding off of their negativity towards me, but
you see through it. You know that their negativity.
I see that I'm at a place that they haven't reached yet. And actually that brings me to another point. Right. When I was very unwell, like malnourished, and, you know, not healthy spiritually, whatever, I didn't understand that how people, like when I saw people doing well, like it actually confused me. Like I didn't think it was genuine. And I thought there was like a almost like a facade, like they were just playing this role. Like I didn't think they could just genuinely be happy living life, no issues, like worry free. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But that was really my own inner demons or things that I was insecure about. And I was almost, and not that I went out and like bash people, but I there was a point where I was battling, like I was just confused that, like, I thought like it was just like fake, you know?
Right. And probably because of how you've grown up too, maybe, where it always seemed like no matter what, you couldn't, like there was always something like financial or whatever, like you just couldn't get to a place where it's like, fuck, like I can't catch a break. Like, right?
Exactly.
And then like you find this higher way to live life where you have like a deep peace, inner peace, and your morals are like you're very in tune with them, and you feel like you're kind of treating everyone and yourself how you like in a very good way, then yeah, you're living life in a completely different, like on a different wavelength probably, right? Than like when you were younger. And also I guess at this point, like you started your own business, right? Like selling health foods. That's super cool that you've gone that deep with all this, to where it's led you to literally like what you're doing for a living now, like to make money. But it's obviously more than that, right? Like it's like everything. It's it's pretty cool that you're doing that. You have like such a a good program going on in your life. I'm happy
No,
for you.
I'm
That's
I
awesome.
appreciate that, and I'm grateful because there were also times where, um, like when I'd be at home, I'd be talking to my mother, and she'd be encouraging me to go forward, and I'd be like, no, I can't do this. Like it's not what I'm. It's just like I'd have all this self doubt from growing up and like being told like you're not good enough or you're not capable, all these things. So I didn't even know that I was actually capable and good at talking with people and selling things and motivating people to do better in life and taking care of themselves and just encouraging people. I didn't even know that was a gift I had.
Mm.
Um, so having people around me who actually believed in me was very important.
Right.
Um, because they also pushed me to keep going when I just would have literally just given up. I'd be like at home and then a friend would call me. I'd be like, man, I don't want to go to work today. He'd be like, man, just go, just don't think about it. You'll be better after. And just like things like that, or I'd be at work and I'd just meet people randomly who are also in the same field, and they can lead you to a solution that you're looking for in terms of whatever health ailment you're dealing with, right? Because we don't realize like a lot of people have gone through very similar battles. And what I've learned to do in the last recent years is actually ask people for help. I had a problem with doing that as a kid.
Mm.
And I think maybe because either I just didn't believe people had the answer or because um, I was afraid that maybe my opinion just didn't really, or my questions just didn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That's just what I was kind of taught, like growing up. Like, even if I did have a question, it was almost like we can be conditioned to think that our questions are stupid. It's like, oh, well, what does this guy want to know now? Like, and so, I mean, fortunately for us, we can just ask questions on Google or whatever. We don't need to ask a person, and they're not going to take it personally.
I feel like society as a whole has been programmed to tell other people that they can't do things
Mm,
and to feel like you can't do things. And I feel pretty lucky where I've kind of always done my own thing for a long
mm,
time now, which has given me belief in
mm,
myself and the ability to see through people that don't believe in me.
mm.
And like the next chapter for me is building a house from scratch. The amount of people that I've
Yeah, right.
talked to that in their head they're just programmed to be like, "Oh, you can't
Can't
do
do
that.
it. Yeah.
Like you can't do that yourself." Like, "No, you got to get a builder. No, you got to get a
Mm,
contractor." Like,
mm.
and I'm not saying that like
Those
y-
wouldn't benefit.
yeah, I'm not, and I'm also not saying like, "Oh yeah, I'm like you can be a plumber without learning how to be a plumber or be electric." Like you got to learn it all. But like at the end of the day, like you got to remember that you can do anything you set your mind to. And I think that that's not, think that's something that this society wants people to think less and less. They want you to not think that and just kind of follow, be an employee of one of the big corporations that run this world instead
Yeah.
of make your own business and make a real
Yeah.
change. Like,
As if your ideas aren't as important or even more important, because
totally.
at least your idea isn't going to enslave a whole generation of people. Like we look up to them as if, okay, to some degree you may be dependent, but is what they're doing, would humanity be better with them or without them?
Mm.
That's what I ask myself. Like I used to work at Young and Front downtown at this financial building, and great experience, right? Because you get to learn a lot. But then you realize that these corporations are dependent on you.
Mm.
So people have you think that you're not important. It's like you're just a number, but they need you. Without us, they don't operate effectively.
Right.
But how much more important is your own vision in life and your own goals that can actually help humanity like prosper and to kind of reduce some of the stress of humanity because of, greedy people who just want to take advantage.
And the fact that the business plans that have kind of done the best in this world are the ones that are the most selfish, like the ones that leave the most people kind of fucked, like
Impoverished in debt.
yeah, like McDonald's, for example. Not to like, I do like McDonald's, and I know that they actually pay their employees pretty well. Blah blah blah.
To be honest, I'm not a fan. I quit eating their food in grade 10 as well. I don't know why, but grade 10, I don't know. I just I tried to quit smoking. I tried to quit a lot of things because at that age, I don't even know if it was the age or just the time where my spirit said, "Hey, enough's enough. Like I cannot be consuming things that are leaving such a dent in my health and my well-being." And again, not everyone may come to these revelations at these ages, but we have to be real with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We can't just keep lying to ourselves.
Man, I think a good perspective to think about like food too is like think about all the people in this world. Everyone has to eat a certain amount of food. So if it was like a chart or like like in video games how there's like a it's like speed, like 80%. There's like a bar that shows like how much. Like if you had a bar that showed all the food that all the humans in the world have to eat, and then you saw how many companies provide that food for all those people, it's probably sadly a tiny number. Where for like we were talking about, if everyone had their own little garden, like that would be all that food, but it would be dispersed throughout billions of people to provide it. And that just seems like a better, more balanced kind of
Of course, it's more balanced, but this world isn't balanced. They capitalize off of our ignorance, and
that's crazy that the word capitalism, capitalize, like that is pretty wild that it derives from the word capitalize.
Oh man, so
which makes sense, obviously, in the sense that like business is to like make money and sell things, so you're capitalizing on. But still, it's just it sucks that people who have gotten that far with huge corporations, they never got to a place where they said like, we can't do this morally. Like the level of sin.
Well, that's a great point because these scriptures also talk about how when you've gone overboard in sin, that you'll be turned to a reprobate mind, which is basically like someone who doesn't know how to do good. So you'll basically be, it's like you're inevitably destined to just do the worst deeds on earth for all of eternity.
Kind of like Anakin Skywalker once he converts to the dark side, and now
see what I'm saying?
All of a sudden it's like there's no.
Once you change to get back on track, that's between you and God, man. There's no like, you can't explain things to some people. You can't like try and lead them the way, like if that's the path they chose, or sometimes even like what a curse is can also cause people to be in these positions just based on the bloodline they're in. So it's like you can take your whole family through this hell on earth, basically, which financially you're not in hell. You're probably the most wealthy, but in other areas, you're not in good hands.
Especially your perspective. Like the perspective of a child who was raised in a billionaire's family. Like, have you seen the movie Grown Ups? Adam Sandler.
It's an old movie, no?
Pretty old. It's basically just like this, like
I think I've seen it. Yeah.
Rich guy from Hollywood and his kids. Like the start of the movie, they're in Hollywood. He's on the phone as a like Hollywood agent, and his kids are playing video games in the middle of the daytime, and and they're like, they have a maid and they're just like screaming at the maid to get them food and get them whatever. And then anyways, the way the movie goes is like they go to a cottage and kind of like try and find, like, become in tune with nature and stuff. But yeah, like if you are just a kid who your whole life, like, food, you don't have to do anything, and like food just shows up on the table for you, and anything you need, like you didn't even see the money transfer, like you just got it, you know. It wasn't like
You're just really disconnected
mm-hmm.
from how things get to where they are.
Right.
But beyond that, you're not even. It's almost like you're bound to a contract that you've been initiated to just do evil, regardless of what you may want to do. So it's like, this is your contract. You sign here. This is what you have to do. If you don't follow these rules, then you're either going to die an early death, live an unfulfilled life, or something negative, you know?
Man, I've actually, I just noticed this, that there's so many TV shows and movies that I end up taking lessons from, like, that I feel that maybe that's a positive of TV, but obviously it's hard to get that. But like, I watched Down to Earth. It's like a movie with Chris Rock where he like dies.
I seen that years ago.
And he goes into this guy's body who's like a billionaire, this like white billionaire guy.
Now, yeah.
And he like owns a hospital. And then there's all these people protesting because he won't like help all these sick people. And then Chris Rock is now that guy, and he's like, this is ridiculous. Like, of course we'll help all these people. And he just does all these things that like these billionaires have not, like, it goes completely against their lifestyle. And all these people are like so happy because he's like finally morally living correctly. And that's like something with TV, I feel like that I'm always taking from it.
But that shows you the spirit. It's like, if their spirit changes, they can do good, like, you know. But again, for a lot of people, because they're binded by these contracts or whatever, destiny, whatever you want to call it, they don't know how to, or they don't want to, or they don't know how, or yeah.
And also too, maybe these other people that they have these businesses, or they run these corporations, they go golfing with these other billionaires, and if the one guy, hey man, like, that's my account, like, you can't cut my account down, like, we're homies.
Yeah.
Now there's a social bind, and that is a powerful thing. If someone's like, fuck man, like, he's my buddy, like, I want to hook him up. And to think that so many of these giant corporate deals
working together, you know,
and it's all a social thing. It's like they're all friends with each other, and that goes back to what you were saying about cutting out certain people, and they don't like they could do that if they wanted to, but it would also be cutting financial gains, but it just shows how deep, like, and dark that would, like, being in that position would be. Like, they're just so lost. But the fact that it can actually, that, like, those people control so much of the outcome of this fucking planet. Like, this planet could get destroyed from a handful of people.
It could, but it won't, because remember, as I said before, we have the power. They can only manipulate you out of your own power, but they don't have power. They need us to get power. But aside from that, God has the ultimate power. So they only use fear tactics and all this propaganda to make it seem as if they're in control, and they have to be very manipulative. But like they say, love always wins, you know. Like, we just need to decide how we want to live our lives and not allow people to take advantage of us or blackmail us or manipulate us to get their way, regardless of why they say their way is the best way. You know, because I don't see any point in history where that is like not giving people a choice. Like that's basically what this modern government's trying to do, is not giving us a choice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's where we have to draw the line.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and it's so obvious that they aren't looking out for our best interest, but then they just keep telling people we are, we are, we are.
it's gaslighting.
And it's like brainwashing. Like
It is,
brainwashing
bro.
is a real thing where like someone, or sorry, hypnotizing.
Mm,
Hypnotists that's a real thing in life where
real
people
thing.
can
I
actually
believe it.
hypnotize people, right? Like it's a powerful tool. And
And they can do it through the television too, man.
mm-hmm,
You know, like I was saying before, when I took a break off Instagram for 2 months, I felt like this weight was off my shoulders. So just by not engaging in any of these contents, and I follow pretty, you know, healthy um, pages. Like I don't really look at anything explicit, all that stuff. But even the stuff that is so-called good, there's still a vibration that comes off of the platform itself. And I felt like I was like still being controlled to a degree. So until I like stopped it, I was like, oh man, like I feel like I'm myself again, you know?
right.
It's pretty deep.
Damn, I could use a little
Detox.
social.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. So unhealthy, and it's hard too when business intertwines with social media. When you
Mhm.
go on there to try and make like a business post.
Comes down to discipline though, man.
Mm.
Like no matter what platform, what field, you have to have discipline,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Right. Um. So the stuff that you now sell
Mhm.
as your business, as your product, what exactly what exactly is it? Like, did it start with something that you needed for your own health,
Yes.
and then you kind
So
of
um, basically, the business is called Herb Help. And so the goal is to help. I sell tea. That's what I sell. But my intention behind the business is to help people maintain a high quality of life, just to be healthy, so that way they're not, you know, worrying about, oh, this popping up, this showing up, or if something does come up, like an ailment or something, that they have a simple solution for it, which is tea, which is from nature, which is something we've been using for thousands of years to keep us well, so that we're able to deal with, you know, just life, and we're not questioning, oh, like what are we gonna do? Like, what's the solution? In my mind now, I no longer have those thoughts of what are we gonna do, because I know what to do, because I did the research, and I've also tested it on myself, and I've seen it work for other people, and it reduces a lot of stress for me personally, because I'm I'm in control now. And again, I'm not going to say I was always in control. The only thing that was separating me from where I'm at now is the knowledge. That's it. We
mm,
all have access to the same things. It's not like I, you know, just conjured up something in the middle of nowhere. Like this is stuff you can buy on the internet. I've just made it very easily accessible for people.
right.
And I've also sourced it from places that are, you know, high quality.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things I sell also we grow on our farm as well. So I just pay close attention to where these things are coming from, and I make sure that I know the value of them, because I also take them for myself.
So are these substances or uh, herbs that uh, are sold in other forms on the market already, or are they kind of like not really even? Are they kind of like low key? Like not many
Basically,
people.
some of them you've heard of, some of them most people have not heard of.
Why do you think that is? That no one's like pursued them yet? Do you think it's because it's
Well,
like new knowledge,
I guess
kind of, or
depends on where you live in the world. people have pursued them.
Right.
I think in our part of the world, anywhere big pharma is, there's going to be a drowning out of natural medicines and plants, which a lot of the pharmaceuticals derive a lot of their ingredients from.
Right. And that's not a conspiracy. That's just the truth, because that's just how business works, right?
Exactly.
Just like that lady you were talking about, she wants the competition to disappear.
Exactly. And unfortunately, that was a native lady who you would think through all the stuff her people have gone through, they don't have any desire to put other people down. But hey, trauma and certain things affect us all differently. You know, I've learned how to release things, and not everyone has gotten to that point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't look at other people doing well as a threat.
Mm-hmm.
I actually look at it as a bonus, because we're all unique and we're individuals, so we can all bring something new to the table.
Right. You're not worried about like, oh, they did the same thing I wanted to do. It's like, you know that you're going to bring your own original ideas to the table because you're that in tune with.
And we have thousands of people who go to these markets, so there's going to be customers you get that I won't get, though, and vice versa. So there isn't this competition concept, right?
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said,
we were talking about, I think I made the comparison of that lady to, oh yeah, so the, like have people, oh, so this part of the world, people haven't really tapped into a lot of the things that you're selling.
Yeah. And to be honest, I think this system has found its way in every crevice of society. So I think wherever major cities are, there's going to be a lot of ignorance of natural remedies. That's just how it works. So, you know, one of the first things I did when I was really sick was I just started buying stuff online. There's a company out of England called Niashar. I love their brand, what they sell, all natural, like herbs and mushrooms and stuff. Niashar. You can check them out. But the first product I took, man, it changed my life. And that's probably, I'm not even probably, that's why I know it's what helped me to get to this place. Because when I seen and felt the effects of having like true natural medicine in my body, there was no question that this was something I was missing.
Was it, was this the stress relief, or was it other things too?
It's not that I felt like a new person overnight, but it was actually scary because, and what it was chaga mushroom, but it was in a tincture, and it was like a 99% ethanol extract. And, but the way it was prepared was in this very ancient method, and it was very highly absorbable by the body. And I literally started to look in the mirror like the next day, the day after, and I looked like I was aging, like de-aging like 10 years. Like every time I looked in the mirror, I looked 10 years younger, and it was like, I was like scared, but I was also like intrigued at the same time, because I knew it was working, but I was like, it wasn't making sense to me, you know? And I think with natural medicine, a lot of people are afraid of what it can do, and like what you know, what's going to happen. Like, oh my gosh. So I went through that as well. So I understand people have fears of like what plants and natural medicine can do. But I wouldn't say it's something that you should be afraid of, because, you know, we were created to consume these things. Like it's a part of our needs as humans. We have a direct connection to plant life and mushrooms and different fungi and stuff like that. So it's actually necessary that we consume certain plants, because the way I see it is certain keys in our bodies cannot unlock unless we consume certain foods. And if we're only eating like 5 to 10 plants, throughout our entire life, we're malnourished. We need to be consuming way more diversity of foods for our bodies to function optimally. So that way we can address every organ. For every organ, there's a plant that corresponds to that specific organ. So for the brain, you might use ginkgo, you might use, lion's mane mushroom, you might use wood betony, which is another one a lot of people don't know about. For the heart, you might use linden leaf, you might use hawthorn, you might use rose. Even peaches are very good for the heart as well. For the liver, so many remedies. You got milk thistle, andrographis. You got a lot of the bitters are good for the liver.
And I guess another problem with this is that maybe they don't taste that good, right?
A lot of them don't taste the best, but that's a part of the programming too, is just hook you on all the sugary processed foods. Mm-hmm. But you have to have a balance, because too much sugar is bad as well. But if you obviously don't want to have too much sour, you don't want to have too much salty. Everything has to be a balance. And in the Chinese medicine, the text, they explain how all the tastes need to be. You have different tastes, and they have to be. You have to choose your foods in season, but also according to the flavors and the taste and because each flavor and taste corresponds to a different organ and it has a different function in the body. So if you have too many sour foods, it will cause your digestive system to be off, to not work as well. If you have too many sugary foods, it can mess up your system. Too much bitters and too much salt will also cause problems.
And not to, what's in coconut water and in Gatorade? Electrolytes. So electrolytes are a form of salt, right?
It's a form of salt, yes.
But a little different than...
The salt we're getting from most places is like iodized. It's not in its natural form. Okay. So it's been like extracted and like processed in a way where it's almost like like when you have things diluted and in its proper
natural form, in a sense.
Well, in its proper form, but also when you're eating an orange, you're getting all the other nutrients with it. So you're not just getting, like, let's say if there's sodium in it, you're not just getting sodium. So your body can process foods when they're in its natural form versus by itself. So when we take supplements on their own, we're actually causing a lot of imbalances. So like, let's say we're just taking vitamin A or vitamin K or vitamin C by itself. It will actually offset other vitamins in the body.
Interesting.
Or vitamin D. A lot of people high in vitamin D, which is very essential. You need it. But if you're not addressing these other nutrient deficiencies, it will actually cause imbalance in those too.
Right. And taking the proper absorption methods, I guess, is a big part of it, right? Like a lot of people that supplement with vitamins, they're just pissing out most of it because they're not taking the other ingredient that is going to help absorb it.
Exactly.
I think years ago when you started this, you gave me a tea.
I remember, yeah.
I can't remember which.
It's like guinea hen.
Well, whatever it was, like I could smell it today.
Oh, you still know?
Oh, yeah. The reason is because it was such a potent.
Yeah.
It had a really strong flavor and smell to it, very distinct too. And I tried it a few times. I tried to like get myself on it, and I think I ended up like falling, kind of slipping through the cracks, and just kind of like.
That's cool, man.
I got lazy on it, but yeah, I feel like that, like just most teas too. People probably think like, oh, tea's good for you, but most of the teas out there are probably designed for flavor, not for like the health benefit. Exactly. Where like what you're doing is something that is like. If it tastes how it tastes, right? but this is what you got to take to be healthy.
And
Bottom line.
and with that, I've also been finding herbs that are very nutritionally beneficial, but also they taste pretty good too. So you can actually enjoy the tea more so and not be so thrown off. But even still, there are cases where, you know, the bitter flavors are necessary because you might have like an extreme viral outbreak or you're trying to overcome some crazy, you know, something that they say you can't get rid of and you need to hit them with something stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And there's stuff for that.
There's a natural remedy. I don't know if this is true, but it sounds like there's basically a natural remedy for almost everything.
Everything.
And that's what like I've heard of. I listened to a podcast with a guy who had a regenerative farm, and he was talking about like pesticides and all the stuff that they spray on crops to kill the weeds and the insects. But he was saying that there is almost always a natural remedy if you, but it's going to be more expensive. It might not be as effective, but the bottom line is that the health, it's not going to affect your health.
Natural remedy.
It's not going to poison you, like, or a lot of them.
I understand, and to be honest, from my research, a lot of these things are not expensive at all. What makes them expensive is the person selling it. And so I have learned to keep my prices. Like, one of the issues I faced when trying to get healthy was actually having things being affordable. So I was like, every month, paycheck come in, go to Whole Foods, you know, in the health department or Healthy Planet, wherever you go to buy your natural stuff, and you basically spend all your money, hundreds of dollars a month, on whatever you think is going to help you fix your problem. But it didn't get me anywhere, and I was broke at the end of the day. And I always realize, I'm like, how are we going to get healthy if we can't afford to get healthy? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. So I find companies, even companies that sell natural plants, and there's nothing against people selling things for the price they want, but for me, it didn't resonate with me because I don't want to take advantage of someone who can't afford to heal themselves, or rather, I don't want to take advantage of someone who is trying to heal themselves but can't, due to the fact that they can't afford the product.
Right.
So I don't want to be the guy is like, you know, for me, that was like intuitively, like, I felt kind of guilty. It's like, yes, I want to make a business out of this because I know it's what people need, but I also want to make it affordable because when I was in that position, I had a hard time affording these things.
Right.
And I don't want to have that barrier for other people.
That sounds like the highest level of morality that you could go about your business.
I mean, again, not every business model will work like this. So it's not to say you have to sell your products for the lowest end or whatever. Like, make what you want to make. It's your product, it's your choice.
But if it fucking works, if that works and you get to check all the boxes of being the best person you can be, that sounds like, I mean,
it's a blessing still because you can help people and you can still put food on your table. You know what I mean?
and a lot of these herbs too, like the ones that you noticed significant changes as soon as you took them, like these teas, like I'm sure they're expensive for tea, but at the end of the day, like it's got to be pretty minimal, right? Like, because you're just buying like a little bag of herbs. Like, it's not like you're like, you know, buying three meals a day or something.
Yeah. So these herbs you really don't need that much of, which is why you can get away with, you know, like a bag could last you a few months depending on the herb. Some of them could last you years because they're so potent and you need such little for it to be effective.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So really every herb has a different potency level. Some you could use more as like a vegetable, meaning you could have higher quantities on a more consistent basis.
Mhm.
And then others would be in the more highly potent, like you just use like a pinch in your cup of tea. You might have that like a couple times a week or a month. But otherwise, yeah, these things, I don't think they were intended to be expensive. That's why they technically just grow wild, a lot of them, like dandelion, burdock.
Dandelions.
Yeah, very, very beneficial. One of the most beneficial for your liver,
No way.
kidney. Yes. You wouldn't think so.
Wait, dandelions come
Yes,
like a
the
weed.
yellow one that they all go and mow down.
No way. It's considered a weed, right?
Considered a weed to program us to think that they aren't beneficial. They're not beneficial for the people who want their lawns to look healthy, but for your physical body, they're
Right.
very beneficial.
For human OCD, for grass, the thing that consumes a stupid amount of water and has really not much benefit except good looks.
You know?
Wait, so like the raw form of a dandelion?
Yeah, you can get it. The leaves, the flower, the root, the whole thing's beneficial.
Wow. That's very interesting.
And you know, depending on, most people they could eat the whole thing, no problem. The thing people may want to look for is, because a lot of people are predisposed to high blood pressure, some plants, they alter your blood pressure. But also some part, like for instance, dandelion, I can take the root, but the leaf itself, and I don't know if it's an allergy thing personally, because, you know, as kids, like some kids may have hay fever or whatever. Someone I know said if the more you consume it, the less these things will harm you.
Right.
So I think there's room to just try these things regularly, and then the body will build up immunity.
Right.
But I can eat the root, no problem. However, the leaf for me, there will be like an alteration in my blood pressure.
Interesting.
Some people don't have that issue, but from my research, African Americans, based on, you know, the diets we're eating in America, we're more predisposed to having high blood pressure situation.
And I guess the way that the body would build an immunity to that natural healthy substance is the same way it might build a natural immunity to all the garbage and the toxins that are in our food and on our food, that our bodies have naturally grown an immunity to, that probably there should be I probably should have hives right now for some of the shit that I eat.
No, I hear you, man. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's dandelion, burdock, plantain, that grows everywhere.
Like the banana?
Well, it's plantain leaf, so it grows like, it's like a weed too. It grows like outside all over.
Oh, okay.
Even this spruce tree here,
Mm-hmm.
very beneficial. It's medicinal. The leaves,
Spruce.
or the cones, or the needles. Sorry,
Interesting.
the needles, the pine cones, the spruce cones. One of the most potent like rejuvenators of your immune system.
Cool. So what'd you bring? Let's take let's take a little dive into this bag, just since we're on this topic, right? Cool. Might as well. And do you remember what that tea was that you gave me? Which one was that?
A while ago?
Yeah. I think it might be the same stuff that you're drinking. Could be wrong.
Let's start with, this is one of my favorites here. Want to check that out? All right, yeah, I'll
I want to just hold that up to the camera there.
I'll bring out this one.
So are a lot of these the herbs that you were mentioning before? Barley.
Yes.
Okay.
And they're personally some of my favorites.
So do you take all of these
I alternate based on what my body tells me and when.
Okay.
So I have several books that actually explain the benefits of all the plants. And they they give you better insight as to when these herbs should be taken,
Okay.
like for what ailments. So it will say like, you know, you could take, so I'll give you an example. So this one's garden sage. So it's basically sage, and we know people use sage for like smudging and stuff.
Right. Yeah, so that might be a more common one right there that people will recognize.
Yeah.
Perfect one to start on.
Sage, this is, I guess, a different variety of sage.
Okay.
And this one is used for...
Like a different strain.
This one is used to build up the immune system. It also helps to normalize circulation in the body. So people are dealing with like circulation issues in their hands, in their feet.
Whoa.
Arthritis. People are dealing with inflammation.
I'll be on that one.
If people who have like a lack of blood flow to the brain. So this is also another good herb to help memory and focus, concentration, things like that.
I need that. My wrists have really bad circulation from honestly probably the cell phone more than anything, but definitely BMX too.
I believe it. So that's sage. Another one, Mimosa pudica. This one is amazing for parasites.
Really?
And worms.
Mimosa.
Yes.
Mimosa. Not to be mistaken as champagne and orange juice. Dude, no. They probably took the name.
They probably took it, bro. I kid you not.
It's a great name. Mimosa?
Good. It's good. But this one works wonders, man. Like it scrubs your intestines and like cleans. It's almost like turns into like a thick gel or jello, and it like literally grabs onto anything that's in your intestine and like drags it out.
So for like colon cancer or...
Bro, anything that should not be in your digestive system, trust me, this stuff works.
Wow.
Very, very, very well.
And do you notice it like when you take a shit? Like it's different?
Or you definitely notice it. Like if you go on YouTube, there's a guy, I forget his name, but just search up Mimosa pudica, and there's like these gentlemen explaining it and how they've seen tons of parasites coming out, like foot-long worms and all type of things, and they like swear by it. Like it's really powerful. And with certain herbs, you also want to be more you want to combine them sometimes with other herbs to make it more effective. So some of these books will explain good herb combinations. They'll explain probably, obviously, not only the ailment that these herbs address, but some of the herbs will explain how to make tinctures with the herbs. They'll explain contradictions as well. So probably the time when you don't want to take the herb. You know, again, like if you have a high blood pressure problem, there's certain herbs you may want to avoid. Not that they're bad, but for an immediate scenario, you just they give you more clarity on those types of things. Mm-hmm. And then there's herbs that are safe that typically they really don't have any contradictions. So you could take it freely, and there isn't reports of these things causing any harm or things like that.
So what do we have next?
So tribulus, this one is also known as gokshura. Mm-hmm. So this one is for men who are looking for, and women as well, but mainly men, who are looking to increase their testosterone.
Really?
And who have a low sex drive.
No way.
And who cannot get their stuff going.
Does it also contribute to like hardness of your erection, or is
it anything to do with proper reproductive health? Like stuff works. Like I can't take it because I'm already like strong in that area. So not that I can't take it, but there's no need, because for me personally, when I do take it, like, you know, I don't have a girl right now, so I don't want to be walking around horny all the time.
Is it overstimulating? Like it makes you...
Not in a bad way, but you notice it. Like you're ready to go. Like when you take it, like you're ready to go. And again, there's many other herbs in that category of aphrodisiac as well.
Mm.
So that's definitely not the only one. There's many other herbs.
I want is like Viagra derived from something like that maybe,
I would say so. Or, you know, I again, I haven't done my research on that
or probably a
completely.
synthetic version of it, or
I would, it's definitely possible.
mm,
But again, I think it works amazing. You know, I was taking a few months ago, but I stopped because I just felt way too aroused. So for
wow.
me, I was like, this is not what I need right now. Let me move to something more soothing. Because then, so there's herbs that actually increase sex drive, and then there's herbs that can decrease it. So if you ever feel like
Mm.
you can't control yourself, or you are just tempted to always go at it, but it's not the right time and place, right?
It's wild. Like there's a substance you would never see a commercial of, like, are you struggling in the bedroom? You know, like the Cialis or Viagra commercials. Like
Mm.
all those people go to the doctor and get a pharmaceutical pill
Mm.
to help them with their sex drive. And I bet it doesn't even really, it's probably not like
It
directly
The long term effects of those is not worth it,
right.
personally.
If they knew that there was just an all natural remedy, who wouldn't jump on that? But the
Mm.
problem is, like, I'm sure that's cheaper than Viagra, right? And less marketable, and
Mm.
it has a flavor. So there's all these other factors, right?
Exactly. So the next one, another heavy hitter, is elderberry. Have you heard of this?
No, or
Man,
maybe.
this from my research is one of the highest in iron. Is like natural plant source of iron, not the synthetic stuff.
Mm,
Very good as like very high in vitamin C. It improves your energy levels. It detoxifies the body. So it's also used when you're sweating. So if you're doing a workout and you want to, because basically anytime you're sweating, you're releasing toxins. So sweating is a form of detoxification, and elderberries helps you to detox through the sweat. So it will push all these toxins out of your skin, and it helps to increase your circulation to the skin as a result.
interesting.
Is very good for
Wow.
that.
Very cool.
Another big heavy hitter. Another big heavy hitter is mangista. So this is a very, I wouldn't say very unheard of herb, but
Mhm.
probably in our culture in the West, not too many people know about it. But in Indian medicine, is known as the number one blood purifier. So if you look throughout ancient texts, they talk about the bloodstream. The Chinese talk about it, the Indians, even in the Bible, it talks about the blood as being where your life is. So when, just think about it. If you drain your blood, you're gonna die. So your life source, your spirit, is where your bloodstream is. So any disease that manifests in the body, you want to clean and purify your blood first. Not necessarily first, but it has to be a part of the protocol, because anytime you have impure blood, you're gonna have the likelihood of a disease to manifest. Just think about the shots where people get vaccinated. They go right into the bloodstream because they understand the bloodstream is where your life force is, right? But naturally, there are plants that actually purify and detoxify the bloodstream so that certain things won't develop long term.
Mm.
But as well as the bloodstream, they also assist in detoxifying other organs like the liver, kidneys. Again, every plant has a different affinity to different organ system.
That's very interesting, because I once heard fairly recently that the water that you drink
Mm-hmm.
basically becomes the blood in your body.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the things that really
Mm-hmm.
worried me about being on tap water,
Mm-hmm.
and just thinking about all the contaminants in the water that I drink, and if it actually converts into blood. Whew.
Well, from my research, anything we consume has the potential to become a part of us,
Right.
and not just on a physical level. Again, back to the portals, information you're consuming, just conversations you're having with other people.
Right.
It's energy transfer. Food is energy. So if you're drinking contaminated water, it's not going to be the best for your body. But there are ways, and the body is very resilient. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's not to say we're just in a horrible place if we're not eating the best or drinking the best, but we can, use certain natural remedies to get our body back into like a healthier state,
Right.
But again, everyone's at a different place with their health. So for some of us, it's definitely more urgent. And I'm not saying that to say you should just eat or drink the worst stuff and get away with it. But, I think the first step is just awareness. Like if you really don't know, then you're not going to care to change,
Right.
So,
And yeah, that makes sense. And you got to want to change too. Like it's one thing to be aware of it, and then it's another thing to initiate the plan. And it's so easy to just be like, well, I mean, that information is that information, but I've been drinking this tap water for years now and nothing's happened. It's like, well, expect something to happen, right? If you don't change, it's got to happen. And how much would that suck too if you were like, if someone raised your awareness to something and then you were like, okay, cool, noted, and you kept doing it and then it bit you in the butt and got you in some way with like that would suck, I'd be like, I'd feel like I let myself down.
No, I agree, man. But that's why you can't like lie to yourself, like intuition, Like, sometimes people are here to show us things that, if we're not on the right track, doesn't mean we're bad people, but what we're doing right now is not good. So we got to make that decision,
And don't identify with that path, with that track that you're on. It's just because you've done it, it doesn't mean it's who you are. Be open to learning more about it. And if you are if you're on a path that might not be the healthiest or the wrong path, and someone tells you, you can change it. It doesn't mean that you have to double down. Fuck you, you're wrong. That's not true. I'm doing this forever. No, like,
I know.
right?
People got to be willing or learn. We have to learn how to like forgive each other and ultimately ourselves. I think people have a problem with accepting the fact that they do things that are not good, or they make mistakes, or they're flawed, or we try very hard as humans to like cover up our weaknesses or our sins, and it really just ends up showing more. You know what I'm saying?
True.
It's like you're putting on this mask. He's like, no, that's not me. It's like, well, we can all see that's who it is.
Right. Yeah.
And so, yeah, like when it comes to healing or changing your lifestyle, we just have to, accept that, there's always, no matter what age we're at, there's always room for growth. And we definitely have to forgive ourselves for falling into whatever deception that's already passed, but also not holding that against us, and not taking the victim mentality either. It's like saying this is just what it is. I have no other choice. Like you have a choice, but you gotta train yourself to use that.
Right. Totally. So the last one you brought up was is it pronounced Mangitha?
Mangista.
Ah.
Or it's there every language has a different spelling and pronunciation, but
it almost looks like wood chips.
Wood chips, yeah. It's a root. This one's a root
okay.
of that's the herb. Very, very, very powerful. It increases dopamine levels in the body, in the blood, so it actually helps you to feel much better.
Whoa.
So if you're dealing with like depression and things like that,
Natural dopamine.
People need it, bro. You know?
That probably makes technological dopamine feel very synthetic. Or do you notice the feeling when you take it?
Bro, I notice the feeling when I take all of them. And all of them may not be like a hypnotic feeling. Like there are herbs where you may feel somewhat like I feel like every plant has a different vibration, so they almost make you feel kind of high because they're stimulating your receptors, CBD, whatever. A lot of plants also work in the same kind of pathways in the body. But with this one particularly, I do feel very, very good, like grounded. Like I don't know any other herb that is in such a short amount of time like brought me up to a place of like just great well-being. And I say that because obviously, in excess, any even natural medicine is it's never good to overdo anything in life, right? But I guess that's just its job. Like every plant is like they say it's like a spirit. So they have a purpose, not only as food, but as medicine. So if we can connect with them, then we know that they're here to provide the body with a certain function or to assist the body with a certain function.
Very interesting. So what do we have up next?
Egyptian blue lotus.
Wow.
You heard of this one?
Well, I've heard of lotus. That's
Okay.
a flower, right?
Yes. This one is very powerful. If you look at the ancient texts, it talks about the lotus as being, or it's like the water lily as being like a sacred plant to help with people who are, maybe people who want to dream more, have more vivid dreams, people who are looking to have a more pleasant, music experience. Like certain plants, they also can enhance creative output. So if you're, an artist or you're, making music, whatever, certain plants will actually help you to be more inspired and things like that.
And this one does
very,
that?
very, very much so. This is also one that could be, it connects directly to the brain, and they say it's specific for your pineal gland as well.
And these are all teas? Like all of these, you put them in like a hot cup of water?
Exactly. With the exception of the mimosa here. The exception of the mimosa.
Mm-hmm.
That one, the mimosa is, you would just take it with lukewarm water. You don't need to make it into a tea.
Okay.
But the rest of these are teas.
And like you actually drink the mimosa? Like,
yeah, you drink the seed as well of the mimosa.
Right.
These other ones, you just steep it. You don't really need to, other than the elderberry. The elderberry is a berry, so I actually eat the berry after I drink the tea.
Nice.
But the other ones, the roots and the leaves, you don't really need to consume it.
One thing Dean and I were talking about a couple days ago on here was he was saying how how a lot of people throw their compost in the garden. If you just soak the compost in water, like if you put your eggshells and like banana peels in water and then you take that water and spray it on the garden, then the potassium or the calcium.
That's what I do, man. I like all the teas I drink or whatever food trust me, my garden looks really good this year. Like it's healthy, it's thriving, everything's nice.
That's cool. Like just to think that it's the same with tea, as like you put it in water and then it like absorbs
takes the nutrients. Yeah,
that's so cool.
It just recycles,
Unreal, man. Such a cool process.
It's good, man.
So what's next?
So we got lemon myrtle.
Myrtle Beach.
Oh man, this tea tastes and smells, and I'm not just saying this, but it's one of the most pleasant tasting and smelling teas.
Really?
It tastes it's like a sweet lemon, and it's very potent. So a little goes a long way. Like I only use like maybe a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon per serving. But this one is known to help with muscle development. So it prevents muscle wasting. As we get older, like our muscles can kind of shrivel up and things like that. So it has a variety of other benefits.
I'm seeing balance hormones, mental clarity, stress relief, coughs/colds.
Mm-hmm. So the lemony flavor as a whole, a lot of other plants also have. It's like this nutrient. I think even some cannabis has it in it as well, and it's a basically like antibacterial, antifungal. A lot of these plants have a lot of similar compounds, but the lemon myrtle is I just generally like it because of the taste, but it definitely does a lot more than just the focus part or the stress relief.
Is it antibacterial too, or
it is? And again, like every plant to some degree is antibacterial for its own sake to defend itself from like invading pests or pathogens. So naturally, it's going to do that for our system. But a lot of them are in different degrees. Like there's some antibacterial plants that if you take even like a 16th of a teaspoon of, you'll just obliterate all your microbiome. Whereas some are they're in such small amounts where you can drink it regularly without causing any harm. So it's just really a matter of knowing what does what. And, the literature also helps with that. So you're not guessing.
If humans were a plant, what benefits would we exert out of our like tea?
To be honest, I almost feel like we are plants, because we need to be watered,
Mm-hmm.
So we are plants, and we can learn about ourselves based on the needs of plants. That's how I've kind of interpreted it. Like this, before I came here, I woke up, went on the computer, did a bit of reading and stuff, and then I watered my plants before I left because I'm like, okay, they're going to dehydrate if I don't tend to them. And then I cover them, make sure they're not getting, these pests aren't going to come eat them alive. And we're kind of sensitive in the same way where we need to be like taken care of. And as much as, we can be independent, I think there's room for both areas. I think every stage in life may call for a different, or every age in life may cause you to, everyone's different. You got to look at where you are, and certain plants, that's what I meant to say. Certain plants can assist you at different stages in your life.
Right.
So, like there's certain plants you may go to when, you're grieving. There's certain plants you may go to when you're having a child, or when you're just enjoying life and you're having a party and you just want to put a smile on your face,
Right. So what's the last one we got?
Oh, ashwagandha.
Ashwagandha. So that's a fairly familiar name there. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
Let's take a minute here. Barley. Stop it. UPS driver? Yeah.
Some goods.
It's like he knows exactly who it is, but I think he loves barking.
Oh, yeah.
I think he thinks that
you enjoy it.
he thinks that he's protecting it. Like it's his duty to protect.
Oh, I know. Trust me,
So
Reggie,
stupid.
bro. No, but that's kind of cool, though,
That is cool.
It's like, if they were in a pack, it would make more sense, but because they're alone, it seems kind of weird. But
It only seems weird because I spend every day being like,
Don't bark.
Yeah, don't bark. You don't need to protect me. Like, chill out.
I hear you.
So ashwagandha is the last one.
Mm-hmm.
And it says anxiety/sleep/stress, thyroid support, healthy joints, nervine tonic, blood flow, adaptogen.
Yeah, so nervine tonic is
Harley, we're doing a podcast. You fucker. Oh, that's going in there.
What's up? So yeah, nervine tonic is like a nervine is a classification of herbs that addresses all nervous system disorders. So your nervous system is highly underlooked from my research and my experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it is like what signals to your body that there is a threat or you should just relax and be at peace. So it's like the signals. It's like your internal, it's like gauging between what's you and what's not you, your nervous system, in terms of the signaling. So there's many herbs in this classification. Ashwagandha is one of them, which helps you to be more grounded, just relaxed. There's skullcap, which is one of my favorites. There's Solomon seal, our root, which is very calming, and it helps you to relax and helps with sleep issues. It helps with, they say it's like a cardiac tonic, so for your heart as well. And there's like lemon balm. There's even a lot of these other herbs here would be classified as a nervine to some degree. Mm-hmm. Some are stronger than others, though. So a strong nervine, even like kava, some nervines may put you to sleep, while others, they will just relax you without being too aggressive on your nervous system.
Right. So to sum up ashwagandha in a simple form, what's kind of...
Well, so ashwagandha is, in Indian medicine, is one of their top herbs that they've used for thousands of years for men's health, testosterone.
Okay.
To keep us strong and to help with the brain. It helps with preventing hair loss. It helps with just a variety of different other issues that we face,
In India is a bit more in tune with natural remedies, or?
Well, again, anywhere that hasn't been impregnated by the ideas of the West, because essentially before pharmaceuticals, what else was there for healing? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Just realistically, like if you didn't have plants, you didn't stay alive. Mm-hmm. So as far as I'm concerned, the first wars that ever existed was the spice wars. They would go and they would fight over different spices and herbs and plants because they knew if they didn't have these things, they would die.
Crazy.
Wow.
Like
turmeric, black pepper, all these things. Like we're so overwhelmed by it that it doesn't seem that important to us because it's just everywhere. But if these things stopped coming in, like we'd be in big trouble.
Right. Wow. Well, dude, that's amazing that you're on this journey to heal.
Thank you.
Not only yourself, but everyone else. That's really, really cool. Super inspirational for me to like make me want to kind of take my health more seriously, get onto some of these remedies and just take life to the next level.
Most certainly. Thank you, man.
Yeah, dude. Well, thanks for coming on. It was a good chat.
For sure, bro. All right, man.
See you next time.